Why you're always stressed about your future. You're not just thinking about the future. You're feeling it before it even happens. A conversation that hasn't occurred yet already makes your chest tight. A decision you haven't made already feels like a mistake. And no matter how much you plan, it never feels like enough. So, why does your mind keep running ahead, as if something is about to go wrong? Problem deep dive. It doesn't start as fear. It starts as thinking ahead. You tell yourself you're being responsible, prepared, careful, but slowly it changes. Planning turns into replaying. Replaying turns into predicting. Predicting turns into catastrophizing. You imagine conversations going badly. You picture opportunities slipping away. You rehearse failures that haven't happened. And the strange part is, your body reacts as if they already did. Your shoulders tighten. Your sleep gets lighter. Your mind doesn't rest. It scans. Even small choices start to feel heavy. What if this goes wrong? What if I regret this later? It begins to shape how you see yourself, not as someone capable, but as someone constantly on the edge of messing things up. In psychology, this pattern often links to intolerance of uncertainty, a tendency where the brain treats the unknown not as neutral, but as dangerous. And when that happens, your mind doesn't just think about the future, it tries to control it. But the more you try to control something uncertain, the more unstable it feels. So you think more, plan more, worry more, and somehow you feel less prepared than ever. So what is your brain actually doing here? Reframe. This isn't a flaw in your personality. It's not because you're weak or overly sensitive. It's because your brain is trying to protect you from embarrassment, from regret, from loss. At some point, your mind learned something simple. If I can predict what might go wrong, I can avoid pain. And that worked, at least once. Maybe you avoided a mistake. Maybe you caught something others didn't. Your brain noticed, and it built a pattern around it. Now it assumes thinking ahead equals safety. But here's the shift. Your brain didn't learn when to stop, so it kept going, past useful thinking, into endless simulation. And now, instead of protecting you, it keeps you in a constant state of alert, not because something is wrong, but because something could be. Psychological mechanism. Your brain has a system often described as a prediction machine. Its job is simple. Reduce uncertainty by imagining outcomes. But it doesn't just imagine neutral outcomes. It prioritizes threats. Because from an evolutionary perspective, missing a danger is far worse than overreacting to one. So your brain asks, what's the worst that could happen? And then it fills in the details. Think of it like this. Your mind is a movie director, but instead of creating random stories, it specializes in worst-case scenarios, not because it wants to hurt you, but because it wants you to be ready. Now add another layer. Your brain's threat detection system. When you imagine a negative future, your brain doesn't fully separate imagination from reality, so your body reacts. Heart rate increases. Cortisol rises. Attention narrows. This creates a loop. You imagine a threat. Your body feels stress. Your brain reads that stress is proof, so it creates more threat scenarios. A feedback loop. A closed circuit. In cognitive science, this is called a self-reinforcing prediction loop. The more you simulate danger, the more real it feels. And the more real it feels, the harder it is to stop. So the question isn't, why am I stressed about the future? The real question is, why does my brain keep rehearsing danger, even when nothing is happening? Practical framework. You don't break this pattern by forcing positivity. You shift how your brain relates to uncertainty. Here are 4 ways to do that. 1. Separate planning from worrying. What to do? Set a boundary. Give yourself 10 to 15 minutes to plan. Then stop. Anything beyond that, label it as worrying. Why it works. The prefrontal cortex handles structured thinking, but repetitive thinking activates emotional loops. Labeling interrupts that shift. Real-life example. You plan your day in the morning. Later, you catch yourself rethinking the same choice. You pause and say, this isn't planning anymore. 2. Reduce the illusion of control. What to do? Ask, what is actually my control here? Focus only on that. Why it works. The brain overestimates how much control equals safety. Reducing scope lowers mental load and stress. Real life example. You're anxious about an interview. You can't control their judgment, but you can prepare your responses, so you shift your energy there. 3. Shift from possibility to probability. What to do when your mind jumps to worst-case scenarios. Ask, how likely is this? Why it works. Your emotional brain reacts to possibility. Your rational brain evaluates probability. This shift balances the system. Real-life example. You think, what if I completely fail? Then you ask, how often has that actually happened? Usually not often. That difference matters. 4. Train your tolerance for uncertainty. What to do. Leave small things unresolved on purpose. Don't double-check everything. Don't over-prepare every moment. Why it works. Avoidance strengthens anxiety. Exposure teaches the brain that uncertainty is safe. Real-life example. You send a message without rereading it 5 times. You feel discomfort, but nothing bad happens. Your brain updates. Each of these steps doesn't remove uncertainty. They change how your brain interprets it, and that changes everything. Integration. Think of your mind like a radar system. Its job is to scan for threats. But right now, your radar is too sensitive. It picks up everything. Every possibility. Every risk. Every imagined failure. The goal isn't to turn it off. It's to calibrate it. To remind it, not every signal is danger. Not every unknown needs solving. When you separate planning from worrying, you reduce noise. When you focus on control, you narrow the signal. When you think in probabilities, you sharpen clarity. And when you allow uncertainty, you expand tolerance. Slowly, the radar quiets. Not silent, but steady. Quiet, empowering, close. You don't fear the future because you're unprepared. You fear it because your mind is trying too hard to prepare for everything. But the future was never meant to be fully known, only met. And maybe peace doesn't come from predicting what's ahead. Maybe it comes from trusting that you'll respond when you get there. Not perfectly, but enough. And for now, that's all your mind needs to learn.